Welcome to this meeting of the Local Plan Subcommittee on Wednesday 11th of February. Welcome to members of the committee. We have one person in the audience tonight who I think is observing, and you're very welcome. And welcome to anybody who is listening via the Council's YouTube channel. Apologies for absence. I have none. Councillor Monday, I'm not sure if he's on his way, but everybody else is here. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest to declare the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interest or other registrable interest relating to items on the agenda, having regard to the code of conduct for members and having taken appropriate advice where necessary before the meeting. Do I have any? Councillor Hooks.
Yes, I think I do, because under cycling, North Essex Fellow is mentioned in the study, and I am a member of that club and part of their committee, and it is on my register of interests. So,
Fine.
yes.
Thank you, Councillor Hooks. Don't see any other hands up. No? Sorry, Councillor Finken, sorry.
I'm a member of the Coulter Sports Ground User Group Committee,
Okay.
and obviously it's an MPI, so
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, that's fine. Right, Councillor Abbott.
Well, for completeness, my son plays for Witham Hockey Club, and I'm going to be mentioning that. So,
Okay, fine. And Councillor Mrs Parker.
We're talking about sons. My son plays for Gestingthorpe Cricket Club, and I will be making a comment about cricket. I don't know whether it's necessary to declare that, but
Well,
in case.
yes, just for completeness, that's probably a good thing to do. Councillor Coleridge.
Thank you. I did take advice, and it wasn't strictly necessary, but I have two sons who play for Hatfield Pebble Football Club, and I am a coach at that club, but I have no further interest.
Okay, fine, good. Right, I think that's that done. Minutes of the previous meeting. We've had the minutes from the 21st of January circulated. You're moving, Councillor Abbott. Does that find a seconder, please? Councillor Butland. Does that meet with everybody's agreement, please? Thank you, members. Thanks, Alison. Right. Okay. Agenda item 4, public question time. We have no registered speakers this evening. It's the first meeting for a while when we haven't had any speakers. So we can move on to the agenda items. We will start with agenda item 5, playing pitch and outdoor sports strategy. And this is going to be taken by Alan. Thanks, Alan.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the playing pitch and outdoor sports strategy and accompanying action plan have been produced to support the recreational elements of the new local plan, as well as its strategic allocations. Both documents are available in full appendix on 1 and 2 of this report. The strategy looks at the supply and demand for playing pitch and sport facilities in the district. The strategy and action plan provides a framework for how these facilities should be maintained and improved up to 2041, as well as including a vision for the future improvement and prioritisation for playing pitch and other facilities. The district has been split into 3 areas, so there's a north, central and south area, and the report covers the sports listed, so it's the main sports, so it's rugby, cricket, being the larger ones or the more popular ones, and football obviously. It includes other sports as well, netball, cycling, as well as the golf and things like that. The action plan includes recommendations for several projects as well, but it's important to recognise that these projects could only really take place outside of the local plan, and they would need to be delivered through external funding or 106, that sort of thing. So we would probably most likely include any of the projects mentioned in this report when we next update the potential open space improvements document, or POSI, and we will obviously have to have some ongoing relationships with the sports bodies and to seek funding for their delivery. So the report contains an analysis of each outdoor sport, and I've just got a few examples up here of rather than show you absolutely everything. So this is the table, the first part of the table for football, just showing you the different sites available and how they're scoring. So you see sites that are in red, they've got some potentially some quality and capacity issues. Sites in green is obviously quite good, and things like that. So it just gives members and the local plan an idea of where we should be looking for potential improvements to those facilities. Cricket is the next one, similar but slightly better than football, but we have a lot of things like a lot of the football pitches in the district are grass football pitches, which can be quite difficult to maintain and keep in a good condition, particularly where you have a very popular ground that's being overplayed, so that's where too many games are being played on it and not a sufficient time for it is available to allow the pitch to recover. This is a sort of a hub, a potential sort of how we would determine what sort of facilities and sites a site would need to provide. So a larger site, such as one of the big strategic growth locations, would be expected to provide more of a hub type location, which could attract people from the wider area, and so it would be more of essentially the function of the main town. So you'd have the larger facilities at bigger locations. Okay, and this for the local plan. So we're talking about roughly 18,000 odd dwellings. This is just to give members an indication of the likely level of new provision that we would need to be accounting for. So the match demand per week would go up for adult football by about 9.75 matches, and obviously that has a knock-on effect on training demand. There doesn't seem to be much demand rented for rugby league though, but rugby union is still quite popular, and the biggest growth area, or where the most of the demand is for the youth football. So it's very popular. So that would be an additional 25 or nearly 26 matches per week required. And the report does include a example, or has a case study just showing the King's Dean site and what the site of that site would be likely to generate in terms of demand. So that site, as you can see here on the slide, so that would be an additional 2.5 matches per week for adult football, and nearly 7 additional matches per week for youth football, and quite a large increase for cricket, which appears to be quite a popular and definitely increasing in popularity. So there'll be some significant increases for that as well. And just to give an idea of the likely cost implications in terms of that sort of thing, so to provide all the additional provision, you would need to be looking at sort of getting Section 106 or other funding for about 4.2 million to provide for all the different types of sport demand that would be generated by that development. So this table also includes, has football, it has the rugby, as well as tennis courts, things like that. And 3G is a reference to artificial grass pitches, if members were wondering. And so this document is not really just a evidence-based document. It is sort of a document that should be sort of longer term and will need to be kept regularly updated. And hopefully, we will be able to carry on keeping this document up to date, and hopefully we'll be able to make some progress. So the next stage really for us, or this project, will be the delivery stage. This document should be updated sort of every 3 years as a minimum. The previous study unfortunately didn't get updated as it should have been done, but hopefully this time we can keep on top of it. So just to sum up quickly, so the report's strategy recommendations are that we should protect, enhance and provide new provision, and to seek partnerships for funding, and to seek better use of developer contributions. It has got some recommendations in there about increasing community use of school sites as a potential way of generating some additional capacity, although how schools are run these days, that might be a little bit more difficult because they have quite a lot of security concerns, and that would obviously involve having the public coming onto school premises, and they're also not always available during peak times, so the schools generally are closed, I think, at weekend. So it's overall, I mean, the document is considered to be a robust, defendable framework to help support the local plan, as well as providing sufficient advice to support new facilities within the district. And yes, the document here is also going to be supported by another document that will be coming forward on built facilities as well, if members are wondering why the built facilities weren't mentioned in this document. And also, if you've gone through the document, you're noticing a club or facility may be missing, that's likely due to them not responding to the consultation we sent out or questionnaires we sent out. So if something's missing, it's because they haven't contacted us. But hopefully, if you are aware of something that is missing, please let us know, and we will hopefully get them to respond next time we do next time we do update this document. Okay, so I think the recommendation is on page 6. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Alan. Yes, I thought, I mean, this is a fairly hefty document, but I thought it was an interesting read, and it did, for me, flag up that there is a shortage of some sporting provision, particularly in some areas of the district, and quite a lot of places where they are being used to capacity. So, yeah, I would agree we need to protect what we've got. Councillor Abbott, did you have your hand up? I think you first, then Councillor Bowes-Flint and Councillor Richard.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, obviously it's an important document, and I fully support having the right amount of good quality sports provision. I think it's very important. But personally, I found the document to be overlong, inaccessible. I don't know how the members of the public are supposed to access a document like that, 400 pages long. Very repetitive. For example, I checked the number of times it described how padel tennis was a new type of tennis but was growing in popularity. I think I read that 5 or 6 times, the same line. I think it could have been half the length it was. You only got on page 326 clear tables setting out each facility, the condition it was in now and the condition we would like it to be in the future. And I think that also, the conclusions, the recommendations basically repeated what it had already said in the analysis report. So I think in terms of the way it was set out, it's poor quality. Now this was done by consultants, wasn't it? So my first question is, how much did it cost? My second question is, before we adopt this as a piece of evidence base and recommendations, surely we should sense check it against what I would think as a minimum the parish council's view is. And the reason I ask that is I found, just from the sports facilities I know, numerous errors of fact. So for example, and I double checked with my son, which is why I declared the interest, Witham Hockey Club does not play on sand. It plays on a artificial pitch. Occasionally they play on grass in the summer. And it talked about floodlights, we've already got them. It says the Rivenhall basketball court is poor. Well, it's not. It's on land owned by the District Council, but it's part managed by the Playing Fields Association. We keep the nets up to standard. We keep the, in fact, I personally put the nets on the rings myself a couple of years ago. The District Council comes up and clears it of any overgrowth from the sides, and it's regularly to pick. I don't know how that could be described as poor. It says the Silver End Bowls Club is at a pitch at the Village Hall leased from the District Council. No, it's not. It's got its, as the Silver End Bowls Club, as we know, because we've discussed it so many times, has its own facility, which is leased from, the report says the Parish Council, it's leased from the District Council. I think another concern is that just about every type of sports facility, it said the answer to expanding capacity is to stick lights up. Well, you might not be surprised to think I don't think that's always a good idea, including for bowls clubs in the winter months. Well, anyone who knows bowls clubs, they don't play in the winter months generally. The Mill Green pitch I walked past the other day in Witham is waterlogged. I know the Silver End one, they have a season, I think it starts in April. So why would you put floodlights up to light bowls pitches in the winter? And it did allude at one point to the fact that there could be antisocial behaviour issues around that. But I mean, in Silver End and Rivenhall, some of the pitches with tennis courts, basketball, are very close to the back of houses. So you wouldn't want to floodlight them and have people banging balls and against nets at 9 o'clock on a winter's evening. Whereas other pitches might be more suitable. So I thought there was, I mean, that's just the ones I'm aware of, and others may have spotted others. So I thought that this needs to be sense checked and fact checked by the people who would know best, which is probably the parish councils. In terms of the sort of the bulk of it, what stood out for me was that we can do a lot of capacity improvements by actually improving what we've got. And the thing that came out for many sports, for rugby, for cricket, for football, was quite a lot of facilities have very poor clubhouses, poor changing rooms, not enough differentiation between girls and women and men and boys, poor toilet facilities, that type of thing. So I would think that's got to be given a lot more emphasis. But overall, Madam Chair, I don't think I can't support this because of the factual errors, and I don't think it's a document which is ready to go out there to the public, because this will go out to public consultation. I think it needs to be more succinct, factually more correct, and more realistic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Just before I move on, just to welcome Councillor Monday is here. Councillor Monday, did you have any interests you need to declare?
Nothing to declare, Chair, and apologies for being late.
It's okay, fine. Do you want to come back on any of that, Alan, before or shall I move on to other
Can
speakers?
come back quickly on some of this. Obviously, this is it's a draft evidence-based document. The document does now belong to us, so we will be able to make any corrections that are brought to our attention. We can do that. Yes, it will be out to public consultation through Regulation 18, and if parish councils have any corrections they would like to see in the document, we can certainly make those. Through that consultation. Yes, it is a long document. It's comparable in length to the previous document as well. So he's looking at all the sporting facilities in the whole district. So yeah, I take your point. It is a very long document, and we can certainly have a look at it, see if we can get perhaps a summary or a more sort of a executive summary type document produced for it, just to make it a little bit more easy for people to look at, if that would
Yeah.
be okay.
I mean, I don't disagree with what a lot of Councillor Abbott has said. I think one of the problems is there's the report and then there's the strategy, and the strategy inevitably does repeat quite a lot of what's in the report, but still, yeah.
How much did it cost?
I would have to look that up, but I can get
We
back
will
to you on
we'll
that.
get an answer on that. Okay. I can't remember how was it Councillor Bowers-Flint? I think I had next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And just to go on from the comments that Councillor Abbott's made, we have a member of staff here in this authority that I would say, hazard a guess, that if he was asked to look at this, he would know every single pitch. He would know every single area. Have we consulted our own leisure department on this? Okay.
Yes, we have, yes.
So to go on from that, the bit that, and also on bowls, nobody plays bowls outside. The grass is far too wet to put woods down on a wet pitch. They play indoors, and several clubs have got indoor pitches as well. Braintree has, but yeah, I find that strange. But the bit that I don't understand, which I'm sure you're going to come back to me and tell me, Alan, is the fact that straight away the first pictures are Alec Hunter Academy, and they're poor, but they're not available for the public. So what is the point of having them in there? Because nobody can use them, only the school in school time. If they hired them out as at Tabor, if they hired them out after school, I could understand that because then they are for public use. But when they're not for public use, why are we included them in there? Because they make no sense whatsoever. Thank you.
I think that's a-
Oh, and I'm disappointed to see that there's no curling pictures been required.
Alan, yes, do you want to come back?
Yes, so we do write to all the schools who are contacted as part of this study. One of the recommendations to potentially improve capacity was to explore the possibility of using sites such as those at schools to see whether there was any way we could actually bring those into a more general use. I think I did acknowledge earlier that might be quite difficult considering their security concerns, that sort of things. But it was an idea that it could be explored further. It may come to something, it may not come to anything at all. But it's generally a good idea to see what sporting provision you have available, because children they do still use those pitches. So it's just a good idea to see how your facilities are doing in the whole district.
Thank you, and it is true to say, and if you look at this only highlights it even more, that a lot of clubs and buildings are not fit for purpose, basically. We shouldn't be expecting any shared sex toilets now and showers and anything. I mean, in this day and age, it should be separate and it should be up to a certain standard. And I know certainly one of them in my division, Sporting 77, has been going for, well, I don't know, it's got to be over 50 years, because my nephew's in his 50s and he played for them. And they didn't even have a building in them days, but the building they've got now is so used, and that is a massive football club. It's the biggest one, I think, in Braintree. The number of teams that they have and the jobs that they do there is absolutely fantastic. But the building isn't fit for purpose, like a lot of others. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And Councillor Abbott alluded to that as well, and it does come up frequently in the report that sometimes pitches, playing fields may be all right, but it's the facilities very often are not up to standard, just they haven't had the money and the investment in them, so doesn't make them very appealing, I agree, for people. I think I had Councillor Coleridge next, and then Councillor Ritchie. I think, oh, you didn't? Oh, sorry. Councillor, right, Councillor Finken, I'll go to you next, and then Councillor Ritchie. Sorry.
Thank you. I agreed with a lot of what Councillor Abbott said. My comments are going to be a little bit parochial because obviously I'm based in Halstead and I'm concerned about sports facilities in Halstead. And I'm going to start off very parochially talking about the King George V playing field behind my house, which has two goalposts with large potholes between the goalposts, completely unplayable, completely unusable, but could be used if those holes were filled in. They've just been neglected, really. It's not mentioned in the report at all, but it could, it should be mentioned as a kickabout goal area, but it's not even included. The King George V in Branch is mentioned, but not the one in Halstead. And I think it could be marked out as a mini pitch, to increase the capacity there. So that was the first thing. Then we've got Courtaulds. As you know, we've recently taken over the management of the Courtaulds sports ground by the Town Council. I was a bit surprised to hear that the Halstead Town Youth Football Club has no access to changing rooms or toilets. I think they might have asked years and years ago. They haven't asked recently. And they should certainly be informed that they would be able to use them. So there's lack of communication there. And they should write to the Town Council and ask for access, and also send a representative to the Halstead Courtaulds Sports Ground user group. It also mentions the poor quality of the adult and mini football pitches, as well as the rugby pitch. And obviously that would require quite a large investment, I think, to bring them up to standard. Other things to do with Courtaulds, the Rugby Union is also described as a poor quality site with waterlogging. and needs investment. But there's a mistake in the report. It's not owned by Housestead Town Council. It's owned by Essex County Council. And we have written several times to Essex County Council to ask whether they would consider transferring the asset to the Town Council, and they have always refused. Not really giving any clear reason why they've refused, but just say that they have no interest in transferring the asset. So that is an actual mistake in the report. The further point about the Courtauld Sports Ground is that the changing rooms are described as poor quality. The building is described as poor quality. It's been there, some of it has been there for over 100 years. It was an old summer house, which has been extended by our present groundsman. And yes, we need a proper pavilion, we need a properly built. It doesn't even have foundations to it, proper foundations. The quality of the changing rooms and the toilets and so on is not very good. It's not suitable for women and girls. It hasn't got disability access. There's no sports lighting for the rugby club, which would like it, which has to use portable lighting. So there are many ways in which that needs to be improved. It's disappointing that there's no information from some of the clubs, but those clubs might think, well, we've got our relationship with Housestead Town Council. It refers back really to something that Councillor Abbott said. The Town Council has got a lot of this information because it works closely with those clubs. And I think, the District Council sometimes needs to go through the Town Council and the parish councils to find out the detailed information, really. Some of these clubs are very traditional, let's say, very reluctant to change, very reluctant in several cases to include women and girls, as we can see from the report. And if we're going to get them to change, we need to work with them to change attitudes and the culture, really, as well as communicating more effectively with them, I think. And then the last point I want to make really is the future demand in Housestead is obviously going to increase exponentially. We're going to have an increase in population of over 50% of our population, from 13,500 to over 20,000 population, and that will necessitate increased provision. There will be more demand, more need for a variety of things, and the actual figures quoted in that section where it says what Housestead is going to need in terms of extra financing are quite frightening, really, and you just wonder where all that money is going to come from. But certainly we ought to be looking at the provision when we look at the proposed developments on the eastern side of Housestead, because it's going to give rise to a lot more demand in the town. Okay, I'm sorry it was all about Housestead, but no, I think the report is extremely good. I'm not that worried really about the length of the report. I think it needs to be detailed and it needs to go into all the different aspects which we've got to consider in developing a sports strategy. Yes, it's obviously takes time consuming to go through it all, but I certainly think it's better to have more information than less.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Winkin. I don't think you need to apologise for talking about your patch. It was a very valuable contribution. Thank you. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I wholeheartedly agree with a lot of the comments that have been made this evening, particularly on the fact that the report, I think, needs to be in-depth and detailed, just to give those who might want to find some detail the opportunity to look at maybe some of the history or some of the background of some of the provisions that we've got. I think what we need to recognise is the opportunity that a local plan refresh gives us to be able to invest in our facilities. And when you go through this report, you just see how many facilities we have got across the district, and actually we need to be quite proud of some of the clubs and the sporting the sports that we can offer as a district. Just to clarify a couple of points, the hockey pitches being on sand, that's actually correct. Hockey pitches are played on a sand substrate and then heavily sanded as part of the pitch. So that's how hockey pitches are set up. I think when we read the report, when we look at the priority, timescales and cost, We need to understand how that factors into if it's available for public use, and to use the Alec Hunter one, the first one, which has got a low priority next to it, is one that isn't available for public use. Obviously, you wouldn't want to invest any local plan monies or section 106 monies towards that. I think where the other opportunity is here is we need to understand what some of the local clubs who actually maintain and look after some of these areas want to do as part of their aspirations. With the investment comes the opportunity to increase their club standing with regard to things like where the FA stands and what sort of competitions they can play in. So the quality of the pitch and the quality of the facilities there means that it opens a whole new viability for where they can play their football, for example, and I'll use football as an example. So I think there is the opportunity to improve the facilities that will then make best use of what a club wants to do. But with that in mind, we need to understand what clubs want to do. They might not want to expand or have vast facilities because at some point someone needs to look after them as well. So it's not just about the capital delivery of some of these great ideas, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't temper some of those ideas, because I think there's a number of clubs who would love to expand, but we just need to understand that there is the ongoing cost of the maintenance of those as well. So we need to make sure that we are tempering that with the aspirations of some of the clubs and the people that have to run those, and some of those are volunteer groups as well. So I think we need to keep that in mind. With some of the grass pitches, I think we have to look at maximising the opportunity and the utilisation of those, especially during the winter months. So what we don't want is a developer-delivered piece of grass pitch that's been put in one corner out of the spoil from the housing development, turfed over and seeded over and said, there you go, there's your facility. I think we need to be strong enough to ensure that these are expertly delivered by people who know how to deliver these types of facilities, especially if they're going to be new. But also, as part of any upgrades, we need to make sure that we're engaging the right expertise to ensure that what they're delivering is going to be not just fit for now, but also fit for the future. And if I use the example of what Councillor Finken said, sports facilities that have been there for well over 100 years old, where we've come a hell of a long way over the past 100 years. I dare so say in the past 20 years, there's much better ways to deliver sports facilities that ensure better utilisation through the winter months, better drainage. Yeah. I'm going to be a bit contentious here. Better lighting, but only to enable winter use from say 3:30 up to about 7:30, 8:30, just to get the additional 4 hours use that you lose in the summer time. And I think if we can do that, we will encourage sport and participation in sport across the spectrum of from football right through to hockey, right through to the cycling spectrum. But I think it's really key that we need to also link the local plan refresh gives us the ability to be able to invest in this over the plan period as well. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Some excellent points in there. Councillor Hooks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to go back to my patch as well. The table on page 52 makes no mention of sailing. And I think basically it's because the pitch is not hired out to anyone in this district. It's actually hired out to Dunmow Football Club, youth football club. So obviously they're in Uttlesford, so I don't think that they wouldn't have been asked. But they, obviously it is a pitch in our district that is used. It has actually been causing quite a lot of issues with the village hall because there is only the village hall there, and if there is a hire of the hall and it's full of football people, they don't want to obviously be intruded by using the facilities, the toilets and everything as well. So it's now looking like we need the football club to hire the whole facility, not just the playing fields, which obviously could put the football club, a difficulty at hiring. So there's a whole lot of issues here when there isn't the proper facilities and changing rooms to go with them. So yeah, just to point out that the sailings pitch that is actually owned by BDC but leased to the parish council, which there goes back to Councillor Abbott's thing. We should have asked the parish councils. Is there, and it's also on page 326, that table in the central analysis, sailing isn't mentioned with its pitch there as well. So I don't know if it's overused, underused, if it's poor quality, because obviously it hasn't been analysed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Roger. It's a very detailed and I think really useful document to have as a sort of base of to allow us to have an assessment of all the facilities that we've got across the district, and it is quite revealing quite how much we have. I mean, I think if you lived in a city, you wouldn't have anything like this. So we are very lucky to have that in our district. Just a small thing on the actual report itself. It is a very, very long appendix. I think it would be helpful in the officer's report if you could actually, where there are 2 appendices here, if they could be numbered in the report so we can find both of the 2 appendices easily, just for future references, because it's quite difficult to try and locate where Appendix 2 starts. It's interesting that I think probably reveals the dominance of football as a sport within the district, maybe because it's presumably the dominant sport within schools and therefore progresses from there. But it's also good to see that we have lots of provision for other sports as well across the district. There are, I mean, I've noticed only 2 things. I'm sure there are probably a lot of other inaccuracies, but I think the report's very good actually on the whole. But just on Rain Cricket Club, when my son played, came back and complained about a terrible pitch it was, outfield covered in rabbit holes, and only could bowl one end of the wicket because otherwise you're bowling towards the road. So I would describe that pitch as poor. Poor, yeah, and I think it's described as standard in the report. That sort of jumped out at me. And just Belsham St Paul Tennis Club has just been resurfaced. That's not noted in the report, but it's little things like that. I think it would be helpful to have, as other members have said, to have, I think there's been a lot of obviously input from clubs, but sometimes just asking parish councils whether they have spotted anything that's inaccurate in the report. And I presume it's going to be going to consultation as part of the local plan. But I just wonder whether it would be helpful to have it sort of specifically sent as a separate document to parish councils to ask them to just review their particular areas, whether that would be helpful so that we can pick up any sort of inaccuracies that are in that report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Alan, do you want to come back on anything?
I'd be happy to do that. We are due to start the local plan consultation quite soon. I don't see a problem with bringing it to their particular attention. I don't have an issue with that, and just asking them just to check their sections.
Were parish councils asked for their input at all in this? Do you know?
I believe this is primarily aimed at the sporting clubs.
Yeah, that's the impression I got.
Yeah, so it's the sporting clubs, it was the sporting associations like the FA were consulted. I suspect Dumno didn't respond because they didn't think it was to do with them or something like that. But as I mentioned earlier, if there is a club missing, it's because we didn't get a response back from them.
Okay, fine, thank you. Councillor Bowers, I think.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I think, first of all, I agree with what Councillor Ritchie said initially. Well, that doesn't mean I didn't agree with anything he said after that, but what he said initially about that it's a great document in regards showing the number of facilities we've got in the district and the wide range in sports. I think, first of all, it's good to see that. I don't have an issue with the length of the document as long as the document is correct and it's more about what it's telling us. And obviously I'm conscious of the current level of provision, supply and demand, but one of the sports I want to sort of hone in a little bit on is paddle. Now this is I don't have an issue with how many times it might be referenced in the report, but it's well reported as the fastest growing sport in the UK. It's well renowned as the fastest growing sport in the world, along with pickleball. And I'm just conscious within the report, it references the Lawn Tennis Association saying the projected growth is, say, 1,000 courts in 2026. And there is a piece around Active Essex stating that there have been potential options discussed in regard paddle courts but at an early stage. Now, I know within the report it references about the supply and demand piece of that provision, say for 12, we've got 4, that leaves 8. But I'm not sure later on in the report, the 1.54 on tennis, is that's just referencing tennis courts and not paddle courts. So I'm just conscious in regards to these kind of documents, if they are fit for the future in regards to the local plan and the number of years, and we've got the fastest growing sport, how does that get reflected more? And because I'm conscious that all the, I won't say old-fashioned sports, but the current demand and the current participation, that kind of thing, but there are sort of moving with the times as well and that kind of thing to make sure that the area is set up for other sports. So I just wondered whether whether officers can sort of reference how that this kind of work, how that would fit into it if we've got a sport like paddle, but we're not maybe looking at that as seriously as maybe we should do in conscious about the growth in the sport in the UK. Thank you.
I think I'll just say that, well, part of the answer is that we will need to keep the study updated every 3 years, so we can take into account any sudden growth, or even perhaps a sport may come forward that we wouldn't expect to start being big. I think paddle is currently being met, I think, or its needs are currently being met. I have to admit, I'm not 100% sure of the difference between paddle and pickleball. I think one's a doubles, one's a single, and a doubles, something like that. But there are certainly opportunities. I've read about the sort of pickleball, particularly in terms of farm diversification, where facilities are being opened up by private people, and they can come forward through that route as well. So if there's demand, there should be some ways for that demand to be met outside of sort of the local plan type process or planning process. So, but yeah, I think the key message from this report, what I'll say is, yes, we will correct any errors that are brought to our attention in the report, but we also need to keep the report up to date as quickly as possible. Yeah. Okay.
Good, thank you. Have I missed Councillor Abbott?
Just briefly, Madam Chairman, going back to the sand issue, I can assure the councillor that Wixham Hockey Club do not play on sand. Sand is widely used as a substrate for all sorts of landscaping purposes, including block driveways, but the actual surface they play on is an artificial surface. I mean, football pitches will use sand underneath, but you don't say you play on sand, you play on grass. That's the surface you play on. The second thing about lights, a lot of the pitches, the new generation ones which have just been built, are not on until 7 or 8 in the evening, they're on until 10 in the evening. And one of the things that's concerned me, as I go past the Rickstones one a lot, is that those lights are on whether someone's playing there or not. And I've made that point before about design. We shouldn't have them blazing away until 10 o'clock at night if no one's there. And I think actually we need a bespoke policy for lit sports facilities within the local plan, because it's not an argument against having them, it's an argument about getting them right. In terms of the length of the document, I totally agree we need lots of good information in there, but I'm thinking about this, how a member of the public reads this. We're used to reading 300-400 page reports. Members of the public are not going to, most of them are not going to read a report that's 400 pages long, very repetitive, and doesn't get to the point quickly. And if you've got to wait to page 326 to actually see the spreadsheet of all the facilities and what needs doing to them, most people are not going to get that far, which brings me on to a final point of detail. What I'm concerned about now is if we go out to public consultation on this, as we're going to with the local plan, this will get lost a bit, because most people are going to be looking at the main local plan document with the housing allocations. It's inevitable. They're not going to be looking at this. I see this tonight as the opportunity to get this right before we go out to public consultation. And I think several members have made the point that I made, as also about parish councils should be, and town councils should vet this. And my final point on that is, this is not just an evidence base, it's also got recommendations in it. So we're going to be asking developers, can you give us 100 grand for this? Or we're going to be asking schools and other facilities, can we, if the evidence is inaccurate, then we could be asking the wrong people the wrong questions. So I think this is a very important document, but for my mind, as it stands, it's not robust enough to put out a public consultation. Very final point, I do appreciate the time pressure we're under to get the local plan out, but do you do that and put a document out that's got, you know, obvious errors that a lot of members have spotted?
Alan?
Just to say that, I mean, the primary mechanism for us identifying improvements to open spaces is the POSI document. So the recommendations for the specific sites in this document will be put into the POSI document. At that point, we can make sure that they have the correct information in them. That POSI document goes separately to Cabinet for approval, and that is where we would have to point developers to justify our asks for Section 106, so we wouldn't be directing them to this document as part of a planning application process or anything like that. So we will have that other mechanism we can do, but yeah, I'm very keen to get any errors in this document corrected. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I want to refer to one which now you see it, now you don't. Notley Green. That supposedly, when the development took place on Great Notley, was to be a cricket pitch. And in fact, quite a lot of time was spent on preparing a grass square there, which was roped off for a goodly period of time to get that. It perhaps wasn't the most sensible place to put it with houses just around the perimeter, because clearly there were all sorts of concerns about, well, you wouldn't need to be that big a hitter to get the ball across the road and into the houses, etc. I think it also refers to it being run under the auspices of the parish council. My understanding, and I look to my colleagues on the right, I don't believe, as members of the parish council, we actually believe that that is something which the parish council is responsible for. But I just wonder, when, so there was a fairly large development which you might say, well, that met the needs of that area, certainly as far as cricket is concerned. And of course it has been, and still is used, to be fair, for a lot of the youth football there. But the cricket square, as it says in the report, not been used since 2000. I'm not sure I ever saw it used, well, I was only there 3 years before 2000. I don't personally recall seeing it there. So I just wonder, when we're thinking about how sports facilities are provided, we do need to think about the environment in which they're provided, and whether it is an appropriate place for it. Because, as I say, Notley Green, what amazed me was, and presumably this was Countryside who used I don't know, 106 or whatever to do it. I mean, a lot of time was there preparing that grass square. It must have been years that it was grown and it was roped off and that sort of thing. But actually, at the end of the day, it never materialised into anything. So I think I would just want to flag up some of these. It's not just a question of, in my view, saying, oh, well, there's something that can, we can use for a thing. I think we do need to think about how that fits in with the rest of the area around. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Anyone else? Not seeing any other hands up. Yep, Councillor Bowes-Flint.
Well, let's try and settle the score. The Witham Sports Ground in Witham, Essex features a 2G sand-dressed artificial grass pitch that is used for hockey.
Is that game,
Are we dealing
game
with
set
table
and
tennis,
match?
Madam Chairman?
Right.
I see artificial grass
That's okay.
We stand on it.
To be continued, I think. Okay. Councillor Cunningham.
Madam Chair, I was just going to say this has been a very full conversation on this. Probably fuller than perhaps maybe we initially anticipated when the agenda came out. But I mean, I'm certainly not criticising. I think that's excellent. Are you looking for something to be moved, or?
I am. I've just got a couple of quick comments myself. But yes.
Happy to move. Are we? Sorry. We're noting the recommendations, or asking the recommendations. Sorry,
Recommendation is on page 6.
Yes.
That the playing pitch and outdoor sports strategy and action plan is approved.
Well,
as
I'm
part
very
of the
happy to
local
move
plan
that for you, Madam
evidence-based.
Chairman. Thank you.
Right. Does that find a seconder, please, somewhere? Councillor Ritchie, I think you've just got your hands up there. Just before I go to the vote, there was only a couple of comments. I think it does show how much sporting facility we have in this district, and I appreciate that not all of it is up to standard, and I think especially some of the facilities, as various members have mentioned tonight, are not great, mainly because they're probably quite old, and they need a bit of TLC. I would just mention Hatfield Peveril, and only because I was there quite recently with the chairman of the council, Councillor Wrench, to open a couple of brand new tennis courts, which look absolutely brilliant. And local people were already booking slots to go and play before they were even formally opened. They also have some really good football pitches there. And a lot of that has come from Section 106 money from developments, which is really good. So, the Section 106 money, when it's, and I'm just talking about sporting facilities here, when it's properly allocated, and as Councillor Buckland said, does need to be in the right place, can be really beneficial for local communities. Only one other thing I just wanted to flag up, which was on, if I can find it now, the Braintree, I think it's Braintree and, I've lost it, Braintree and Braintree Sport and Health Club, which in a couple of places does say, and I know because I had some emails about this quite a long time ago, that the track there, the athletics track, is, it needs some maintenance done on it. And it's actually, I think, going to lose its accreditation this year, a bit later this year, if that's not done. So that is mentioned in the report a couple of times. So I think that's something we just need to look at, because it would be a pity if it were to lose its status. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Ask a question.
Yes.
In the minutes of the last meeting, officers, it says in the minutes, officers would pick up on some of the points that were raised about the layout of the local plan. And I don't think I've had a response, but I did submit the list of points I'd spotted. I've seen officers typing away just now. It'd be a shame to lose all this information that members have put forward. Can we minute tonight? Is that possible that the changes will be made that we've suggested tonight, just so we don't lose all that work? Is that all right?
Sarah's been furiously typing away the whole time. Yes, I'm sure we can do that, because there have been it's been a really good debate, actually, been some excellent points made. Right, members, so that has been moved and seconded, that we do approve this plan to go forward as part of the local plan evidence base. So could I have a show of hands? Sorry.
Chairman, I was just going to say Councillor Monday wasn't present for the whole debate, so he won't be able to vote.
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
Councillor Monday. You're ruled out. You're, I was just, you beat me to it. I was, yeah. No VAR. No. Oh, goodness. Okay. Right. Okay. So could I have a show of hands that we agree that recommendation? Right. Thank you. Those against? So an abstention. Councillor Abbott. Right. Fine. That recommendation goes through. Right. Thank you, members. Okay. Right, let's move on to agenda item 6, which is the Gosfield Neighbourhood Plan. This is the SEA and HRA screening report, and that's Alan again, please.
Thank you very much. Should be a quick one this time. So this report is to agree the SEA HRA screening for the Gosfield Neighbourhood Plan. Each neighbourhood plan has to be screened under strategic environmental assessment and habitat regulation assessment, and this screening determines whether a full SEA or HRA is required. It's likely that this will be in the case that a neighbourhood plan decides to allocate sites for development. BDC has asked Place Services to produce this screening opinion, which is at Appendix 1 of this report. This screening concluded that the plan would not need SEA or HRA. We then sent the report to the environmental bodies, who are Environment Agency, Historic England and Natural England, who have agreed with this assessment. As such, Braintree can now agree a screening opinion, and if it is agreed tonight, we can publish it on our website, and once this is done, we'll be able to arrange a 6-week public consultation under Regulation 16 for the Gosfield Neighbourhood Plan, and that will hopefully be followed by an examination. Thank you. Recommendation, I think, page 358, I think.
Yes. Right, thank you, Alan. One thing that struck me was the large number of listed buildings. I think it's 50, it's either 51 or 53 in what is a relatively small village, actually. That's quite impressive. Right, members, anybody like to speak or say anything? Councillor Parker.
I think the only thing that struck me was the comments from the Environment Agency, and I think we've seen this elsewhere, that the water recycling centre is currently operating close to or exceeding its permitted capacity. And I think we have issues on water recycling capacities elsewhere. I don't know whether officers would like to comment on the situation. Obviously, it's outside of our control, but an infrastructure problem is an important one.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, it is a bit of an infrastructure problem. We'll be looking at that issue in more detail when we've got the water cycle study. When that's finished, that should be shortly. We'll have more information then.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Councillor Parker. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last time that this comes up. We know it's a problem in our whole region, water supply. Right. Any other comments? No. Not right. Thank you, Councillor Bowles-Flint. Yep. Recommendation is on page 358. Moved by Councillor Bowles-Flint. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Abbott. Can I have a show of hands to approve that, please? Thank you, members. That's unanimous. Good. That finishes the agenda for tonight. We have no other business, so I will close the meeting at 7:30. Thank you very much, members.